Right now, we have a former Calhoun County Board Chairman with us, but now he is our state representative from Battle Creek, State Representative Jim Haadsma. Good morning, Jim.
Tim, good morning. Thanks for inviting me on again.
Yeah, it's nice to have you. You were the chairman there, weren't you?
I wasn't.
Oh, but you were on the board a long
I
time.
served under Mike Gray and Art Kale, and I served up until 2016 under Derek King.
All right, so you know all those guys. And but now you're getting to know a whole new bunch up there in Lansing. How's it been going so far? You've been in office now, well, a little over 2 months.
Yes, I enjoy it. There's a lot to learn. It's like a Swiss Army knife of activity. There's lots of different things that are presented to you, lots of different organizations you never knew existed, and lobbyists you never knew about for those organizations you never knew existed. So learning lots of new things, and it's very satisfying to a guy with a lot of curiosity who likes to learn new things.
That's good. And I bet a lot of people would like a piece of your schedule.
It's a really chaotic schedule right now, and I'm still processing how to get the law firm practice well calibrated, like Dr. Bison did with his ENT practice in the medical context with the legislative service. And you can't just stop practicing medicine or practicing law while you're running for office. So that is going on now too. So it's a really hectic schedule presently.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys do it. Although I have a lot of irons in the fire myself, so I do know what that's like. You just have to, you quit sleeping. You got to make cuts somewhere.
You don't watch any television, I can assure you of that.
Well, you're not missing much, I can assure you that.
I always enjoyed, Tim, when I was driving around Battle Creek, when I first came here in the mid-90s, your reviews of what television programs were coming on that evening, so I always knew what I could miss.
Right, yeah. Well, I don't know, it's getting fewer and fewer shows that I enjoy for some reason. Maybe it's just because I'm getting old, I don't know. But I know you've got a lot of irons in the fire here, a lot of people who want to see us, so we appreciate you coming down here and giving us a little bit of time on the radio. Certainly some the big issue in Lansing still continues to be the roads, and this week Governor Whitmer submitted a budget that has a proposal for a 45-cent gas tax, which would come in just a little more than a year, and it's been pretty controversial. But do you think this is on the right track? What are your thoughts about how we deal with this road problem?
First, I'd like to focus on what we can agree on across the aisle, and we all agree that the roads are in extraordinarily poor shape. We need some bold proposal. This is a start. It doesn't mean that that's what we will have at the end, but it's a start of a negotiations process. There really aren't many options in relation to improving the roads. You can't do it magically. I don't believe
Wish we could.
The gubernatorial candidate ever promised that it would just be like I Dream a Genie, and it would happen without some kind of pain and some kind of effort by all of us as Michigan citizens. What we have is a road situation that has evolved over 40 years. It's like somebody who's had a diet of fried chicken, beer, and cigarettes for 40 years, and all of a sudden needs to work out. And put it another way, it's like driving a car and never changing the oil, and all of a sudden at 125,000 miles on the odometer, you need a new engine. We've neglected our roads for so long, and I believe we can all agree across the aisle that funding is needed. The question is how best to fund the roads improvements. And I think this is a bold proposal. It's an opening proposal, and I think there will be negotiations. I'm on the Transportation Committee, and the DOT director came and recently testified before us that we need $2.1 billion in road improvement funding beyond what we received in 2015. All that did was kind of put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. So I think that there will be negotiations ongoing, and I don't know whether it'll be 45 cents, but the other options were less user pays, options like increase in the registration fees, which we did have in 2015. Those are already among the highest in the country, and I don't think we want to go there.
Yeah, they're talking that would have to go up 180% to get it there.
You read this, yes, and absolutely so. I don't think that that is the source by which we can raise the requisite revenue. You can look at other options like raise the income tax or raise the sales tax, but I think those wouldn't be as user-focused as the gas tax proposal. And the other option is bonding, and I think that which we would pay back in interest and principal wouldn't get us as far as we need to get the roads improved. And we need improved roads not just for safety reasons, but to bring on an economy and also ensure that our real property values are enhanced.
Well, I think another thing that all sides seem to be agreeing on is that we need north of $2 billion to get this done and to get it back into a manageable state. And I guess it's certainly important to our tourism and also to our citizens to have safe and better roads. So I think we agree it's a priority. We need to do it. It's going to be a little over $2 billion, maybe $2.5 billion. Now we just have to figure out how we're going to make this happen. What about some other possibilities? There's been talk raising the income tax rate from 4.25 to 5.3. Is that something that's possible or not?
I think, again, this is a proposal just released on Tuesday. There are a lot of things that will be discussed, but I don't think there will be an increase in income tax because, again, the focus is on who's actually using the roads and who's bringing about the deterioration to the roads. In relation to softening of any kind of gas tax increase, of course, the governor has proposed, as many of us did, as Matt Hall and I did each in our respective campaigns, to repeal the pension tax on seniors. And that would give seniors about $800 more per year than they have right now. So that would soften the blow in relation to the seniors in our Michigan population. About 400,000 people would be affected by that. And the governor has too proposed to double the earned income tax credit. So those with least are going to be afforded some increase in EITC funds, and that too would reduce any kind of complication associated with any gas tax increase. I reiterate, though, this is a initial proposal. It's like making a demand in a settlement of a law case, and it doesn't mean that this is what is going to happen. And I suspect there will be a lot of negotiations with the state legislature by the governor's office. In fact, the governor's office, by the budget director, already came and spoke to the respective caucuses of the Democratic and Republican parties this past week during session.
Of course, that 45 cent a gallon increase figure was thrown out. Has there been discussion among you and your colleagues, both sides of the aisle, where that might end up if we do increase the gas tax? Is it 6 cents or is it a quarter? Or, I mean, it's not going to be 45. Nobody's going to sign off on that.
I don't think it'll be 6 cents. We were around 7 cents in 2015, and that didn't improve the roads. It just slowed down the deterioration of the roads. I think what the governor has emphasized is that the state needs an injection of cash to fix the roads right now. While the roads are allowed to deteriorate, the condition just becomes more complicated. It's like the analogy I said before. If you just continue to eat buckets of fried chicken and smoke cigarettes and drink beer and do nothing about your health, you're only going to become in poorer health. And that's the same issue with our roads. If we don't do something dramatic and get some upfront monies now, we're going to only have a greater problem down the road. And I think that's true in relation to 2015 here in 2019.
I see the argument that a gas tax taxes the people who are actually using the roads and wearing them down, and but it just seems like it seems like a regressive tax. I mean, you mentioned a couple of relief options that would help certain citizens, but still people who drive for a living and are barely making it now, a lot of low-income people, low middle-class people that are just stretched to the limit right now. Boy, how are they going to, come up with this extra money if it's just going to be gas tax?
I understand. I see people all the time who can't make ends meet, and it's a difficult cod liver oil pill to swallow, and I don't think it's going to be in the dosage that's presently prescribed by the governor. I think that's going to be negotiated. But if we don't do something, instead of continue to be indolent like we have been for decades now, well, what will happen is that individual who can't afford the extra gas tax on a gallon of gas is going to be paying a lot more for repairs of his vehicle, and that's happening all the time presently.
And the government certainly called that to everybody's attention during the campaign. People on fixed incomes can't afford new struts for their car all the time, and new rims and all that kind of stuff. But it also is kind of disturbing to a lot of people that the governor was in the campaign. Candidate Schuette said, look, what you want to do is put a 20% gas tax increase. And she said, no, that's nonsense, and you know it. It's ridiculous. And now a 45 cent? Doesn't this kind of hurt the governor's credibility?
Well, I'm looking forward. I'm not looking backward at that which individuals argued during some debate during the gubernatorial campaign. Again, I think that this is a proposal put forward, and I think the governor in good faith will work with the legislature in good faith, and we'll come up with a compromise. One of the things that the governor did say in her State of the State address early last month is that she intended to get the budget done by summertime, and that's really important. And I think that my colleagues in the State House are certainly very desirous of working with the governor to make sure we get this done, make sure we do the responsible thing of funding roads adequately. As you said, those on the Republican side, those on the Democratic side agree that we need to infuse some money into the roads, and we just have to, with the governor, negotiate a smart way to do it.
We mentioned a couple of possibilities. Another one being thrown around is a corporate income tax increase from 6 to 19.5%, a sales tax increase from 6 to 7.4%. We mentioned the increase in vehicle registration fees. Why not do all of these things a little bit?
And that may evolve. Again, this is a negotiations process. And what she has presented is a budget which focuses on roads, focuses on infrastructure in context of water, and focuses on properly funding education and making Michigan a more attractive place in which to live. And it may be that as we negotiate, as Mike Shirkey, the leader in the state Senate, and as Lee Chatfield, the Speaker of the Michigan House, work together with our respective bodies, and Chris Kolb, the director for finance for the governor, we will be able to do a little of this and a little of that and properly fund our roads in a way that hasn't been done probably since you and I were very young men.
Well, let's hope we can come up with something. A little different situation in Lansing. We have to come to more of a consensus than we have, because we have a Democrat governor, and we have a little different makeup in the legislatures. Everybody's got to figure it out, I guess. State Representative Jim Haadsma is our guest in the studio today. Boy, I must have a short in my board. I keep pushing buttons and stuff keeps going off. All right, there we go. You mentioned education. One little sideline thing about education that I wanted to ask you about. It looks like the governor wants to do away with a provision that says, look, if third graders can't at least read at the first grade level, they don't get advanced. And what's the thinking behind that? Do you agree with that? That we should get rid of that provision and let them advance, just advance them even if they can't read at a first grade level in third grade?
That's a tough question, and I think it should be within the province of school boards to determine what best ought to be done under those circumstances. I don't think we want to allow children to be left behind already in the 3rd grade. But on the other hand, I have too many clients who may be in their 50s now who are seeking disability benefits who have never been taught to read and were just passed on and quit in 10th grade or something like that. So I think that teaching to the test is a problem, but certainly the fact that kids are just advanced isn't necessarily good either. So we absolutely have to spend more money on education. The governor's budget proposal would put more money into education, would raise the foundational allowance for each K-12 student, and put more emphasis on special education and tutors, and would also put more money into tech education, which I think would fit us well for a workforce of the future in Michigan.
Yeah, and where would that money come from?
Well, that money is going to come in part from the fact that this $2.1 billion that's, and billion and million are very difficult concepts for most of us with individual budgets. So I understand the entire issue of 45 cents per gallon being a significant issue. That would come in part by that money being properly focused on roads, and not any monies coming from different funds which should be earmarked for public aid fund and should be earmarked for higher education monies.
So part of the 45 cents is to get enough gas tax revenue so that no other general fund money would go to roads. Instead, it would go to education. Is that what I hear you saying?
Higher education. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, State Representative Haadsma, thanks for taking the time to stop by today. I'm sure that we'll have more to talk about next month. We can get you to stop in again on, what is this, the 2nd Friday?
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Yep, unless something comes up and we have to move you to another day because of scheduling, we'll look forward to talking to you on the 2nd Friday of each month here and get a legislative update for our 62nd district listeners.
Tim, thanks for the opportunity. I look forward to next month.
Thank you very much. Representative Jim Haadsma.